last night, like you said, it wasn't quite a packed house, but the fact that, it's a Tuesday night, Embiid was out, Chris Paul was out for the Clippers, crappy weather. I mean, Philly showed out last night, and it was rocking from, basically from tip, and then once that run started coming in the third quarter there with the missed free throws and the defense from Nerlens and Rashawn and Robert and them, it was electric in there last night for sure.
Yeah, and you've been to most of the games this year. You're steadily seeing an increase in that crowd. Like, is the buzz getting? Are you noticing more and more that, hey, it's a weeknight, but there's still 75%, 80% of the house full? Have you kind of witnessed that over the time of going to the games this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, opening night against the Thunder was pretty close to a sellout, just for obvious reasons. First game of the season, Embiid's debut, all that. Then after that, it was kind of a little bit of a drop off when the team was struggling early on. But over the past 3 weeks to a month, when the team has been on this run, the people there at Wells Fargo Center, it's been noticeably much more crowded and electric. There were times last year where I could leave from Manayunk at 6 p.m. and get in there to a Sixers game and no problem. Last night I got down to the arena at around 5:45 for a 7 o'clock tip, and I had to sit and wait in traffic to get into the arena. So I mean, there's a huge uptick, I think, already in just like fan turnout and interest compared to even the beginning of this season. The winning does that, and excuse me, once Ben comes on and is added to the lineup, I think we're going to see near sellouts almost every night.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain, 97.3 ESPN.com, at the real Mike KB. Okay, so moving forward here, if you're a fan, are you okay if they win but not enough to make the playoffs?
It's tough. I think that's probably the biggest dilemma facing the team right now. I mean, obviously everyone is enamored with the current wins, especially after being so accustomed to losing. But, in the long run, I think best case scenario for the team would probably be to land in the lottery one more time to kind of just shore up that, the foundation. We get another one or two high lottery picks to, complement Embiid and Simmons and the core that we already have. I think probably some fans don't want to hear that, especially with the current winning. But adding another high-level guy, guard play to that unit that's already kind of coming together with Embiid and some role players and Simmons, I think would really solidify the team for potential dominance going forward for years. With that being said, at the same time, it's different than past years where victories might have been kind of brought on by players that you didn't necessarily think were going to be in the long-term picture. If you go back to a couple years ago when the team was winning games with, like Thad Young or Spencer Hawes or, players that just didn't necessarily fit into the long-term plans, that was one thing. This year, at least, all the victories are coming on the backs of the guys that we're kind of looking to build on going forward. So all the victories, all the experience, I think, is a positive thing for the team to build on going forward. I mean, we don't want necessarily Joel to lose more than he has to at this point going forward. So I think, luckily for the Sixers, and this is kind of the foresight of Sam Hinkie, but they're kind of in a win-win situation. It would be nice to land in the high lottery one more time and get a couple picks. But even if they don't and somehow make a playoff push or win just enough to get like the 8, 9, or 9, 10 seed and miss out on the playoffs, we still have, picks coming in. There's that pick swap with the Kings, potentially the Lakers pick swinging over. So I think either way, however the season ends up, things will be all right in the offseason, and that's kind of a benefit to the Sixers fans that can kind of just root now for the team to win without necessarily having to pay as much attention to, like the results and how that'll impact where they fall in the lottery.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain. So you've been to how many of the Sixers-Clippers massacres over the last couple of years? Because I've seen many of them live and in person, and it seemed like that was the epitome of the gap between what the Sixers were and the real teams in this league. I think last night was a moment that you saw that gap had shrunk, that's a team that consistently kicked their butt. It wasn't even close. They were not competitive against the Clippers for 4 years. I thought last night was a big eye-opener in terms of opponent that they knocked off.
You know, you're definitely right about that. And to add to that, I felt the same way. I think it was last week when they beat the Raptors. The Raptors were another team in the East that had been giving the Sixers fits for the past few seasons. I don't think the streak was quite as long as the 14 straight losses to the Clippers, but it was, they had
They
lost
hadn't beat the
a bunch
Clippers
of
since
games in a row.
2010.
Yeah, I mean, so the fact that they're starting to beat teams like that, like a legitimate team like the Clippers or the Raptors, who are the second best team in the East, I think, like you said, it's really a testament to a step that they've taken up. No, neither of us are putting them, the Sixers in the championship conversation. Obviously, they're not up there with the Cavs, the Warriors, the Spurs. But the fact that they're winning these games against kind of like that second tier of team, I think is a huge sign for what the Sixers can be, moving forward.
What do you know about Ben Simmons?
Man, the Sixers are doing pretty well keeping everything under wraps. There was a little conversation in the media room last night. There's been, no updates from the team to us as far as media members outside of, what's been announced publicly, which is, basically everything's on schedule. Ben had his check in New York the other day. There was, no signs of, any sort of a setback. Everything is, on track, and he appears ready to go. I've heard whispers of, him being ready to play sometime in the, maybe 2-3 weeks from now, but there's certainly been nothing from the team. But, from a fan perspective, at least, everything seems to be, on track, ready to go for whenever the team decides to, that he's actually ready to take the floor. So it's not a situation where there's any sort of setbacks or anything to worry about in that regard.
Yeah, because, I think Brett Brown had said that he's still a ways away from being clear for 5-on-5 work. Is that what he said the other day? Was that last night?
Yeah, I think Brett has been pretty vague about Ben in general. I think he said he's still a ways away, but there's been clips that's come out of him, doing some light practice work, dunking pretty lightly. I think the Sixers are definitely wanting to, keep it close to the chest. I don't think they want to put out a date out there and have something, happen where they have to switch it. But from all indications that I've received, from the team and from sources are that everything is on track and that, he will be playing at some point this season.
What's your vibe about the team's vibe on Okafor?
I think the team itself, the front office, is at this point, Okafor has handled himself really well in this situation. Talking about a guy that's obviously just a year removed from being a number 3 pick, a national champion, and a guy that obviously, he didn't choose to be in this situation. All the reports that came out before that 15 draft were, he would have liked to go to LA. He didn't necessarily want to come to Philly. And I think that combined with just the fact that how he's handled the situation, I think the front office and Brett specifically, who every chance he gets, it seems that Brett kind of, compliments Okafor and how he's handled this process. I think they're just, kind of happy that he's not causing a distraction, but they certainly are aware. I mean, you can't deny the fact that this team has been playing, a level better with Nerlens in the lineup than Ja, which I think kind of just makes it, makes a little bit of an awkward situation going on. But for everything that we've been able to see, the organization has been, pretty respectful and happy with Ja, and I think Ja has done the best that he can, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I think Brett Brown should be commended for being the guy who has to stand up and tell Ja, you're not playing. Like, that's not an easy thing, but that's a sign of a good coach is when you can make the difficult decision of not trying to put square peg in round hole, but saying, we're not going to play you until we need you.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the job that I think Brett doesn't necessarily relish. He said multiple times that Ja, he's a great kid. He's open to coaching. He wants to improve, and he basically, he gives the team his all as far as in practice and trying to improve. And I know Brett certainly doesn't relish having to tell, the players that they're not going to play games. But in the same time, he kind of spoke of this last night. It's the reality of the situation. And I think everyone knows, kind of knows that that's the reality right now. You look at a guy like Rashawn Holmes, who hasn't played in weeks and then comes in and, has a stellar showing like he did last night. And when he finally got some burn, and then talking in the locker room after the game last night, when, asked how he felt about the situation, he was very, very candid. And he just said that he's worked to stay ready. He understands that there's obviously a logjam with a lot of players vying for minutes. and that he's, basically just been taught to stay ready, and that's what he's doing. And I think for the most part, that's basically what all the Sixers big men have been doing, Nerlens, Ja, Rashawn himself, and I think they all deserve, their own fair share of credit for basically, taking the situation that isn't ideal and trying to make it work.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. You think Rashawn has any value on the market?
That's a great question. I was actually literally just having that conversation with a buddy of mine. It's tough to tell. I would say there's some value there. It's certainly probably lower than what the value would be for a Nerlens or a Ja. But a guy like Rashawn, who is shown flashes of potential and athleticism, and is still on a cheap restricted deal, I think would definitely draw some interest league wide. Certainly, it's just a matter of what the Sixers would get in return would be worth kind of parting ways with a guy like Rashawn, who could be, if a move materializes involving one of the other guys, be it Noel or Okafor. Rashawn's a guy that looks like he could plug into like a backup role there and play, 18, 20, 24 minutes a game and be productive. So that he might be a guy that the Sixers want to hang on to, especially if they have, plans of moving one of the other rotation players.
18 minutes, 18 points for him last night. Michael Kaskey-Blomain was there. Sixers-Bucks tonight. And, of course, the Sixers trying to win 2 straight against the Bucks after losing, 14 straight against them previously. And that game's coming up tonight at 8 right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Real MKB on Twitter. Michael, take care, pal.
Thanks, Mike. You too, man.